Hello, this is Anna Imagination, and welcome to the Ethical Asshole, and I am your host, Salty Bitch. This podcast is not a conspiracy. I have a lot of anger, I bottle it up, and then I put it right here and I just unleash it. And I realize this is really, really good because it allows me to steer it and direct it in a healthy way. So on this particular podcast, I do a whole I'm angry and I'm going to go on a bitch fest, followed up with here's the solution. And then I give anyone who wants it instructions, directions. So this is the bitch. There's a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing, which is really, really difficult for a lot of people. And here's why. It's because when you see someone who's just a wolf, they take on the face of someone else, and that causes a confusion of who am I really dealing with? So I have been dealing with a lifetime of wolves wearing teachers' masks my whole life. I have stories that will make most parents rise up with pitchforks. The abuse my children underwent from teachers is an understatement. That's not including the abuse I underwent from teachers. I have a long 30 plus year history of abuse that myself and my children have endured from teachers. It took me a long time to realize that these are not teachers. They are just abusers wearing a teacher's mask. And after a lot of mathematical application, I had to realize that there are warrior teachers, there are wolf teachers, and then there are tepid teachers. Tepid teachers are the people who just want a job, keep their head down, do their job, go home, collect a paycheck. They should not be teachers, but they're doing the best in the system that they've been given. A warrior teacher is an actual teacher who stands up and says, this is wrong and I'm going to do what's right, even if it's illegal, even if it's going to get me in trouble, because it's right. Then you've got the wolves wearing teachers' masks, who unfortunately is the majority. Now, every time a person stands up to say teachers are evil, all the teachers, most of which are wolves, come out to defend their power and ego and abuse our children. The warrior teachers are well aware of the situation and they are busting their ass to change it. They are very, very few and far between. Then you've got the tepid teachers who are just ostrich head in the ground, ostriches. They're ostriches. They're just like, just please let me survive. I'm not a warrior, but I'm also not an asshole. So if you don't know these categories, and the wolves in sheep's clothing really don't make it easy, you end up shooting your fire all over the place, completely unaware that you're harming people who are on your side. So to the warrior teachers, I apologize. And I have one teacher, very specific, who completely, well, I'm just going to be blunt. In 35 years of research, he is the first and only teacher who actually acts like a decent human being who's doing the right thing for the right reasons. That is how rare warrior teachers are. Very shortly thereafter, I found another one. I want to give you an example of a wolf in sheep's clothing. This one teacher went on Instagram laughing because a gunman pulled a school bus over filled with kindergartners and threatened to shoot the children. The children asked the gunman a million questions, and he was so stressed by it that he left. They were more amused over the children asking him questions that they completely ignored the fact that there was a gunman who overtook a school bus. And this school teacher thought it was funny. She's a fucking piece of shit human being. And then I got to see all these teachers laughing at this, as if there's not been enough school shootings to drive home the message. As a parent, I don't think it's funny at all. After being forced to watch Sandy Hook, I don't think it's funny at all. So there's this one teacher, an astrophysicist at a university, who was released because he spoke the truth. Now, in my extensive research and study on the education, on the history of education, since literally 8,000 BCE, and watching it pass down from generation to generation, watching sociology and how education is handled, the first universities, the first temples, which were actually universities, the history of education as a whole, what education is, the science of learning, psychology, the psychological science of education and learning, and then studying a number of educational systems, as well as myself existing in 3 different educational systems. I know my fucking shit when it comes to teaching and learning and education. It is what I do. And when I walked away from all of this knowledge, there is one very, very, very clear truth in this world: that education and knowledge is the only thing that sits at the top right next to truth. Education is the preservation of truth. It is the discovery of truth. It is the preservation, the archiving, and the precious passing on of that truth to the next generation so that we can build upon that truth and nourish the next generation. This is all we do. Now, the people who mastered this skill were philosophers. The ancient Greek philosophers figured this out. And that's really what philosophy was. It was the archiving and the preservation of knowledge to be passed down from generation to generation. The very first person on record to be persecuted for this was Socrates. The second was Christ. 2 teachers who, if they stood up and spoke the truth, were slandered and slaughtered for it. This freedom of speech does not apply to teachers. The people who have the ability to know the truth, speak the truth, we've been silenced. And every goddamn time we stand up, we have a boss, employer, a government telling us what we can and cannot speak. I am not talking about religion, and I am not talking about freedom of religion. I am just talking about the plain basic truth. And it's coming out more than ever right now, where we are starting to see teachers standing up, warrior teachers going, I'm going to teach the truth. I had a wonderful history teacher. He passed out the history books in 1992. And he said, while he handed us those books, I did not say this to you. I am not saying this to you. I am not saying that you should double check everything inside these books. I'm not telling you that the government rewrote these books to make them look like the heroes. I'm not telling you that you shouldn't believe a word in these books because they were doctored. And I'm not telling you that I have no right to correct anything in there, and I have absolutely no say in what I do or don't teach you. I am saying, do your own research. Think. Use critical thinking. Question. We did not have this conversation because I did not tell you this. And then he taught history. He was the best fucking teacher I had. I had a history teacher in 1992 tell me the truth in a way to make it, yeah. When I asked him about it later, and I sat down with him, it was I'm not allowed to talk to you about certain things. And I'm like, but you're a teacher. He goes, yeah, you just keep asking those questions. That was why and how I started studying education, is because of what my history teacher told me. He is the reason why I went, something is up. Fun fact. My 6th grade history teacher was a German. That was fun. I had a German man, born, raised in Germany, who taught 6th grade American history. Yeah, that's right. I have perspective. And I got to see an entire side of what history really is and is not. So, because of these two teachers, I got a real good dose of reality by the good fortune of the gods in 1991 and 1992 to make me go, I need to question what's going on here. That's when I took it upon myself to do my own studies and determine exactly who should be educating me. And that landed me on the greatest educators of the world, the ancient Greeks. And that's when I started to study how they taught, why they taught, what education really is, and what knowledge is. And one thing that is very clear to me is that teachers are silenced. We are not allowed to teach knowledge, truth, and wisdom. We're not. And every time we open our mouths, we are silenced, fired, and we are banned from communicating with students over and over again. Now, I watched Thomas Sowell from 1997, 1998, all the way up to right now, fight this fight, and it's gotten him nowhere. That is how ineffective this has been. So right now, there's something wrong with the educational system. And finally, you guys are doing it. You're all coming together and you're all realizing the same common denominator in every problem is the education. You're all starting to figure it out. It's all coming back to this. Why is our economy falling? Because economists have not gotten a proper education. Why is X not working? Because the educational system did not do its job. Why can't psychologists do their job? Because these guys, the teachers, did not do their jobs. And it keeps coming back to them. And over the last 30 plus years, every time I sat down with a teacher to figure out what's going on, I got a whole bullshit smoke and mirror show that included metaphorical monkey shit throwing. Now their warrior teachers are stepping up saying they're silencing us. We're not allowed to speak. I'm not employed by any educational department, but I have the education, which means I can speak without any kind of repercussion. I'm free. So I can tell you that there is a whole lot of shit that's been happening with the educational department, and their paycheck, their livelihood comes from the government. They're 100% dependent upon the government to survive. And every time they try and speak out that the government doesn't approve, the educational system is told you have to be here. Educators do not oversee your educational department. There was information released back in 1960 by neuroscientists and also by Edgar Dale with his cone of learning, where he proved using science the right way to learn, the wrong way to learn. This information is not new, and it is known by educators and ignored and thrown away. This is not new. Every time we have a breakthrough in knowledge and education, wisdom and truth, it is denied and banned from the schools. While everyone's arguing about which Bibles to put in the schools, which religions to put in the schools, what no one is realizing is truth is not allowed in the schools. Basic ethical education is not allowed in the schools. Proper knowledge on your health and how to take care of you, psychology is not allowed in the schools. Logic is not allowed in the schools. There's a reason why. When this particular professor stood up and spoke up against it, they silenced him, fired him, and removed him from the position. And that is the truth of what is going on with teachers. Teachers do not have freedom of speech. We never have. We never have. This is just food for thought. Take it as you need. Become aware of it. Educate yourself. Thank you, and may the kindest of words always find you.